So there's this thing between the Old Testament and the New Testament called the intertestamental period. Can I give you this, do you know? It's a 400-year period where God didn't speak to anybody, didn't tell anything new, didn't give us anything. There was no new prophets, no new things, no new nothing. It's just silence for 400 years. Nathan talked me out of sitting here for 4 minutes in silence. I was going to do it. It's uncomfortable, right? Even for myself, I caught myself at about the 35-second mark where I was like, ooh, maybe 1 minute is too long. I started getting a little bit shaky. Ooh, did I make a bad decision or something? I wasn't sure. But it's just long enough that it's uncomfortable. You guys were like, especially Trevor. I love Trevor because his face like, what you doing? What's going on? Something's not right. So you got to remember that God spoke to his people through prophets, right? And Malachi was the last prophet. He's the last book in the Old Testament. And in Malachi, he's not happy. The whole book of Malachi is just kind of like he's speaking down on the Jewish people. He's recognizing that God's upset with the Jewish people. And after Malachi, like I said, there's 400 years, and people would be walking around and kind of going, man, do you remember when God spoke to us? Well, no, nobody remembered it because it's 400 years. Generations had gone by. Now it was just like, did God actually ever speak to us? But Malachi, he's kind of a cool dude, right? So he's got this whole idea going on from God, where he got this message from God where he's speaking down about the fact that all of his people had become hateful, ignorant, and arrogant people who grumbled against God. They're short-tempered, and Malachi says that they covered their garments with violence. They didn't practice self-control. They cheated on their spouse and other things. Both literally and figuratively. They proclaimed that those doing evil were good in God's eyes, and that God delights in their evil ways. Do all of these things sound familiar to you? They're kind of like the polar opposites. What do you think? Polar opposites of something in the New Testament. Any thoughts? Anything pop into your head? We talk about it all the time. They're the polar opposites of our fruits of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So I want to take a second, and we're going to take a quick look at a brief passage in Malachi. Malachi 2, 4 through 7. Then I will lift you up to me, and you will know that I have sent this command to you, so that my covenant with Levi can continue to exist, says the Lord of heavenly forces. My covenant with him involved life and peace, which I gave him, and also fear, so that he honored me. He was in awe of my name. True instruction was in his mouth, and injustice wasn't found on his lips. And he walked with me in peace and did the right thing. He made many turn from iniquity. The lips of the priest should guard knowledge. Everyone should seek instruction from his mouth, for he is the messenger from the Lord of heavenly forces. The whole thing there, the lips of the priest should guard knowledge, and everyone should seek instruction from his mouth, because my covenant involved life and peace, which I, God, gave him, Levi. So, obviously, by Jesus' time, the Levitical priests, all priests were Levites, the Levitical priests were corrupt, evil human beings, some of them. They were not speaking like Jesus. They were not speaking the way that God wanted them to speak. They were not doing the things that they were supposed to do. Jesus spent a significant amount of time speaking to the priests and correcting them. Whenever Jesus is putting somebody down in the Old Testament, I'm pretty sure, or in the New Testament I should say, I'm pretty sure it's always him speaking to a priest. So hold on to this Levi stuff for a second here, and let's look at another priest in the Old Testament. Can anybody tell me who that guy might be? Any thoughts? Sorry? Nope. So, there's this guy in Genesis 14:18 through 20 named Melchizedek. Then Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine. He was priest of God Most High, and he blessed Abram, saying, "Blessed be Abram by God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and praise be to God Most High, who delivered your enemies into your hands." Then Abram gave him a tenth of everything. Whoops. So, first thing to point out, notice the timeline here. We're saying Abram, not Abraham. This is important. This means that we're talking about prior to God's covenant with Abram, where he becomes Abraham, right? And Melchizedek was a priest before there was even a priestly order. So he was priest of God Most High before there was a priestly order. And notice this other thing, okay? It says God Most High. The Hebrew words are this, Elion, God Most High. The only other time that God is referred to this in this way is in Psalm 78:35, where it says, "They would remember that God, Elohim, was their rock, and that God Most High, El Elyon, was their Redeemer." You putting it together yet? Okay. Melchizedek paid homage and tithe to God Most High before Abram had a relationship with him. So this was before God was referred to as rock and redeemer. This is important. Hold that too. Are you taking notes? There's a lot of stuff to hold on to. Okay. Melchizedek was priest of God Most High before the priestly system. Who else is a priest of God Most High? So the Levitical priesthood begins with a guy named Levi, or I should say with a guy named Aaron, who is Moses' brother. Okay? Where's that slide? Can you throw the next slide up? Yeah, that guy, right there. So that one's Moses, the other guy, that's Aaron. That's the one that holds Moses' arms up. Okay, so he's a priest of God Most High. And the Levites were a biblical tribe. Okay, and there's an old saying that all priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. And there's this whole thing around the Old Testament that kind of explains this bloodline, but it's essentially like this bloodline all the way up to Jesus. The priests of God Most High were set aside, chosen by God to lead his people, and all priests were Levites. Why does this matter? So, to be clear, Melchizedek is the first person to be referred to as a priest in the Bible, before there were Levites. And like I said, the priests of Jesus' time were corrupt, not very nice people. They did terrible things. They had broken the Levitical system, and there was no life or peace to be found any longer. This is why it is important that Jesus is a priest in the line of Melchizedek and not a priest in the line of the Levites. A priest from before the priestly system existed. A priest from before there was corruption in the system. A priest of the rock and redeemer, God Most High. Okay. For those of you who did take notes, we're going to do a quick, or didn't take notes, we're going to do a quick recap. I don't see anybody taking notes. Rob's taking notes up there. He always takes notes. So God doesn't speak to anybody for 400 years. Okay, this is between the prophet Malachi and John the Baptist, who also happens to be a prophet. This is called the intertestamental period. Do you know how to spell it? I had autocorrect. It was very helpful. And Malachi is speaking out about Jerusalem doing the complete opposite of the fruits of the Spirit. Malachi sets up what the priests and the Israelites are supposed to do. And then warns of God's coming silence. So we've covered lots of ground on this priests thing. And Nathan always makes me write this one little line in the middle of all my sermons that says, "What's the point?" And it's important for me to write this in because I end up squirreling off into the middle of nowhere in this black abyss of reading stuff on the internet, right? But I always have to ask myself, why did the writers of the Bible include the passage that we're talking about? So why did the writers of the Bible include this whole thing on Melchizedek? It's the only time he shows up. Okay? Why is that important? Like I said, because Jesus is a priest in the order in line with Melchizedek. Which brings us to today's passage. In John 14:22 through 31, strap in, it's a big one. Judas, not Judas Iscariot, asked, Lord, why are you about to reveal yourself to us and not to the world? And Jesus answered, whoever loves me will keep my word. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our homes with them. Hold that too. Whoever doesn't love me doesn't keep my words. The word that you hear in me, or here, isn't mine. It is the word of the Father who sent me. I have spoken these things to you while I am with you. The companion, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and will remind you of everything that I told you. Peace I leave you with. My peace I give you. I give to you not as the world gives. Don't be troubled or afraid. Remember that as well. You have heard me tell you, I'm going away and returning to you. If you loved me, you would be happy that I am going to the Father because the Father is greater than me. I have told you before it happens so that when it happens you will believe. I won't say much more to you because this world's ruler is coming. He has nothing on me. Rather, he comes so that the world will know that I have love the Father and do just as the Father has commanded me. Get up, we're leaving this place. This whole thing in John 14:23 is important. Okay? It says, we will come to them and make our home with them. This is important. So if we jump over to Ephesians, with Paul, Ephesians 3:17 through 19, it says, I ask that Christ will live in your hearts through faith. Live in your hearts, make a home in your hearts through faith, and as a result of having strong roots in love. I ask that you'll have the power to grasp love's width and length, height and depth, together with all believers. I ask that you'll know the love of Christ that is beyond knowledge, so that you will be filled entirely with the fullness of God. Okay, this whole make a home thing. Hold on to that. Then it goes on, Ephesians 3:2. You've heard, of course, about the responsibility to distribute God's grace, which God gave me for you. Remember back before in Malachi 2:5, it says, my covenant with him involved life and peace, which I gave him. God, Jesus, and Paul are talking about tangible things, not a fleeting words that don't matter. He's talking about actual tangible things, the length, the width, the height, right? And since we're called to emulate Christ, this peace that Jesus gives us is a tangible thing. It's something like we're supposed to hold on to this. Like, here's a box of peace. Hold on to this peace for a while, and I hope that it helps you throughout the day. Oh, thank you very much for passing me this box of peace. I appreciate it because now I feel a little bit more peaceful. It may have just removed, like in that song, it may have just removed a little bit of the depression or a little bit of the anxiety. It pulls it a bit away. I have a little bit more peace than what I had before. So, we're also called to this idea of giving peace. We're supposed to be like purveyors of peace, doling it out generously as individuals, as people who follow Christ. Right? So I have some homework for you guys this week. I kept it short because I knew we were going to be long today with everything else going on. I want you to think about something as followers of Jesus, like I know all of you guys are, because all of you guys are amazing. Okay? I want you to fill up a box of peace and go find somebody to give it to. And then think about what that might feel like for you to give peace to somebody else. Okay? And then the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to go and think about someone who gave you peace and thank them for it. That's a weird one. Because there are people in my lives that give me peace, and I do appreciate that. Janelle's one of them. Every now and then, Janelle sends me a text message, usually about shooting bears or something like that. And I know that doesn't sound peaceful, but it's a thing. Right? Rob is up there, he's up there going, what about me? I give all of the peace. Look at me, I give all the peace. Rob's another one. Tim is another one. Need I say, Mr. Nathan Barnes is another one. I was sitting there thinking when Heather was praying today for him and talking about the fact that he's impacted so many people, and I was like, yeah, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him, actually present on this earth. Dare I say, maybe once or twice myself. I sure as hell wouldn't be standing up here on stage, making you guys uncomfortable for a minute of silence. Is there someone in your life that is a peace dealer to you on a regular basis that you need to reach out and just thank them for? Just thank them for being that person. And I deeply want this church, Vox, that Nathan and a couple other crazy people that are still here started, 13 years ago? Something like that. I really want us to all stick Jesus in the middle, right at the center. And then I want all of us to kind of be able to go out from there, doling out the peace that Jesus gives us. I'll get the worship team to come up. And I want to leave you with a portion of a prayer from St. Francis of Assisi. It's his peace prayer. It says, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Jesus, make me an instrument of your peace.